It was late evening. The city was full of lights and noise, but inside the tall glass building, everything was quiet. On the top floor, in a large room, a rich man stood near a window. His name was Mr. Raymond. He wore a black suit, and his face looked tired and sad. Behind him, in a big white bed, his little daughter was lying still. Her name was Emily, and she was just 6 years old. She had long golden hair and soft hands. But now, her face was pale, and her eyes were closed. Her breathing was slow, and her body was weak. Mr. Raymond looked at her with pain in his eyes. Doctors came and went, but no one could help her. They said it was a rare illness. They said they had no cure. He had money, but money could not save his daughter. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. His assistant, David, entered carefully. "Sir," David said in a low voice, "there's someone outside. He says he can help." Mr. Raymond turned around, confused. "Help? Is it a new doctor?" David shook his head. "No, sir. It's a boy. A poor boy. He came alone. Says he wants to heal your daughter." Mr. Raymond frowned. "What are you talking about? Is this a joke?" Before David could answer, a soft voice came from behind him. "I can help her," the voice said. They both turned and saw a thin boy standing at the door. He looked about 10 or 11 years old. His clothes were dirty, and his shoes had holes, but his eyes were calm and strong. Mr. Raymond was surprised. "Who are you? How did you come in?" "I walked in," the boy said. "Nobody stopped me." David stepped forward. "Sir, I told the guards to keep people away." "It's okay," Mr. Raymond said, raising his hand. He looked at the boy again. "What do you want?" The boy took a deep breath. "I want to heal her." Mr. Raymond laughed bitterly. "Heal her? You? Are you a doctor?" The boy shook his head. "No, but I've healed people before." Mr. Raymond looked angry now. "You don't know anything. My daughter is very sick. She needs real help, not a game." "It's not a game," the boy said. "I can feel her pain. I heard it. That's why I came." David looked nervous. "Sir, maybe we should call security." But just then, a soft voice came from the bed. "Daddy." It was Emily. Mr. Raymond rushed to her side. "Yes, sweetheart, I'm here." Emily looked at the boy. "Who is he?" she asked weakly. Mr. Raymond looked at the boy, then at his daughter. "He says he wants to help." Emily gave a small smile. "He feels warm, not outside, but inside." Mr. Raymond froze. Something about her voice made him stop. She looked more alive than before. He turned to the boy again. "What's your name?" The boy looked down. "People call me Zane." "Zane," Mr. Raymond repeated. "What can you do?" Zane walked slowly to the bed. "Just let me touch her forehead. That's all." David stepped forward. "Sir, this is risky. We don't know this boy." Mr. Raymond thought for a long moment. Then, he stepped back and nodded. "Okay," he said quietly. "Do it." Zane stood beside the bed. He placed one hand gently on Emily's forehead. He closed his eyes. For a few seconds, no one moved. The room was silent. Then Zane opened his eyes. He looked tired, like he had run for miles. "She will sleep now," he said softly. "In the morning, she will feel better." And with that, he turned and started to walk out. "Wait," Mr. Raymond called. "Why are you doing this?" Zane looked back. "Because she cried, and I heard her. I don't need anything. Just let her live." Then he walked out the door and disappeared into the night. Mr. Raymond and David stood still, not knowing what to say. On the bed, Emily was sleeping peacefully, a small smile on her lips. Something had changed. But what? The sun rose slowly over the city. The sky was orange, and the birds were singing. Inside Mr. Raymond's big apartment, the light came gently through the windows. Everything was quiet. Suddenly, a soft voice broke the silence. "Daddy." Mr. Raymond opened his eyes. He had fallen asleep on the chair next to Emily's bed. He looked up quickly. His heart started to race. Emily was sitting up. Her eyes were open. Her cheeks had color. She looked alive. Mr. Raymond rushed to her side. "Emily, you're awake?" She smiled. "I feel better, Daddy. I don't feel the pain anymore." Tears filled his eyes. He held her hands and kissed her forehead. He could not believe it. Just last night, she was close to dying. Now she was sitting up, smiling. David, the assistant, entered the room and froze when he saw her. "Sir, she's awake." Mr. Raymond nodded, still in shock. "She's awake, and she's better." David stepped closer. "Should I call the doctor?" "Yes," Mr. Raymond said. "Call all of them. I want answers." Within 1 hour, 3 doctors came. They checked Emily carefully. They ran tests. They looked at each other in confusion. "This is impossible," one doctor whispered. "Her condition was critical yesterday, but now, she's normal, healthy." Another doctor said, "There is no sign of the illness. It's like she was never sick." Mr. Raymond didn't say anything. He just looked out of the window. His mind was full of one name: Zane. The boy had touched her forehead and left. No pills, no machines, just his hand and something no one could explain. Later that evening, Mr. Raymond sat alone in his office. He looked at the city lights, but wasn't really seeing them. Then he whispered to himself, "Who was that boy?" He called David. "Find him," he said. "The boy. Zane. I don't care how. Search every street, every alley. I need to talk to him." David nodded and left quickly. Meanwhile, Zane walked through the narrow streets of the city. His hands were in his pockets, and his head was low. He passed by people, but no one noticed him. He was just a poor boy, after all. He stopped near a small food shop. The owner, an old woman, smiled when she saw him. "Zane, you look tired." "I'm okay," he replied softly. She handed him a piece of bread. "Here, you helped my son last year. He walks now. I never forget." Zane smiled, took the bread, and walked away. He didn't heal for rewards. He didn't ask for anything. He just helped people who were hurting. But today, something was different. When he had touched Emily's forehead, he had felt something strange, something deep, like a voice, calling him. He sat under a tree and closed his eyes. "Why did I feel that?" he whispered to himself. "What is this connection?" Back at the apartment, Emily was painting with her crayons. She was smiling and full of energy. Mr. Raymond watched her from the door. "She looks like herself again," David said behind him. Mr. Raymond nodded. "Yes, but I can't rest until I find that boy." "Why?" David asked. "He healed her. Isn't that enough?" Mr. Raymond turned to him. "No, David. A boy like him doesn't just appear out of nowhere. He's special, and I need to know why." David looked unsure. What if he doesn't want to be found? Mr. Raymond looked at his daughter. "Then I will make sure the world knows about him. He saved her. He may be able to save others too." Late that night, Emily was sleeping. A small light was on in her room. Suddenly, her eyes opened slowly. She sat up and looked around. Then she whispered, "Zane?" But there was no one there, just the wind outside, blowing gently. She smiled. "I know you'll come back." And then she lay down and went back to sleep. 2 days had passed since Emily opened her eyes and smiled again. Mr. Raymond still couldn't believe it. His daughter, who was once close to death, was now laughing, walking, and painting again. But one question never left his mind. Where is Zane? Every morning, Mr. Raymond asked his assistant the same thing. "Any news about the boy?" And every day, David shook his head. "No, sir. We searched the streets, hospitals, schools. Nobody knows him. Some say they've seen a boy like him, but when we get there, he's gone." Mr. Raymond stared out of his office window. "I need to thank him. I need to understand him." David looked nervous. "Sir, what if the boy doesn't want to be found?" Mr. Raymond turned slowly. "Everyone wants to be seen, David, even those who hide." Somewhere across the city, Zane sat by a small fire near the river. He was alone, eating a piece of bread. Around him were old bags, empty bottles, and broken benches. It was a place no rich man would ever visit. But Zane didn't care about places. He only cared about people. He took out a small notebook from his pocket. It was old and torn. Inside were names. Just names. He added a new one. Emily Raymond. He smiled. She's safe now. Suddenly he heard footsteps. 3 older boys appeared from the shadows. They looked angry. There he is. One of them shouted. The magic boy. Zane stood up, calm but ready. You healed my brother, didn't you? The tallest one asked. Now my parents treat me like I'm nothing. Zane stayed quiet. You think you're special? The boy shouted. You think you're better than us? I don't think anything, Zane said softly. I just try to help. But the boys didn't want to listen. One of them pushed Zane. He fell to the ground. Leave me alone, Zane said. Make us. The tall one laughed. But just then, a loud voice came from behind them. Get away from him. The boys turned. A police officer was walking toward them. They ran quickly into the dark. The officer helped Zane up. You okay, kid? Zane nodded. Yes, thank you. You should be careful, the officer said. It's not safe here at night. I know, Zane replied. As the officer walked away, Zane looked up at the sky. Maybe it's time to leave this place. The next morning, Mr. Raymond held a press conference. Cameras, reporters, and news channels filled the room. He stepped up to the microphone. My daughter was sick, he said. Very sick. And no one could help her. No one, except a poor boy who came to my door. His name is Zane. He paused. I don't know who he is or where he came from, but he healed her, without medicine, without tools, just with his hand, and something special. The reporters whispered to each other. I want to find him, Mr. Raymond continued. Not to use him, not to pay him. I want to thank him. I want to protect him. He looked into the camera. Zane, if you are watching this, please come back. You're not alone anymore. The room fell silent. Far away, Zane was sitting in a small tea shop, watching the news on a broken TV. The volume was low, but he could read the words on the screen. Mr. Raymond searches for mysterious healing boy. Zane lowered his head. A kind old man at the shop said, That boy sounds like a miracle. Zane didn't reply. He stood up, left some coins on the table, and walked out. He looked at the sky again. Dark clouds were forming. Rain was coming. Zane pulled his hood over his head and walked into the storm. Back at the Raymond apartment, Emily was sitting by the window. She was drawing something on a paper. Her father walked in. What are you drawing, sweetie? She showed him the picture. It was a small boy with kind eyes, standing under the rain. That's Zane, she said. Mr. Raymond sat beside her. Do you think he'll come back? Emily nodded. He promised me. Without speaking, I felt it. Mr. Raymond smiled softly. Then we wait. Rain poured down over the city like never before. Streets were wet, people ran for cover, and the sky looked heavy and dark. But in the middle of this storm, a small figure walked quietly down the road. It was Zane. His clothes were soaked. Water dripped from his hood, but he didn't stop. His feet made soft sounds on the wet ground. Step, step, step. He had no umbrella, no home, no destination. Only one thought in his heart. I must stay hidden. Back at the Raymond apartment, Emily stood near the window, her small hands pressed against the glass. She watched the raindrops race down like little rivers. Is he out there, Daddy? She asked. Mr. Raymond walked over and knelt beside her. Maybe, he said gently. But if he is, I hope he finds a safe place. Emily smiled softly. Zane doesn't get scared, Daddy. He listens to people's hearts. That's how he finds who needs help. Mr. Raymond looked at her. Did he tell you that? She shook her head. No, but I felt it. Mr. Raymond placed a hand on her shoulder. He believed her, even if the world didn't. Meanwhile, in an empty alley, Zane found a small roof to stand under. He sat on the cold ground, pulled out his notebook, and opened it to Emily's name. He traced the letters with his finger. The page was wet, the ink starting to run. He looked up at the sky. Why me? He whispered. Why do I feel what others feel? Why do I hurt when they hurt? He closed his eyes. Flashes of the past came into his mind. A crying baby in a shelter. A woman in a wheelchair who smiled after his touch. A young boy who stopped coughing after Zane held his hand. He had always felt people's pain. He didn't know how. He just did. And every time he healed someone, a part of him grew weaker, but his heart grew stronger. Later that night, David walked into Mr. Raymond's study, holding a wet shoe in a plastic bag. "Sir," he said, "you need to see this." Mr. Raymond stood up quickly. "What is it?" "We found this near a river, just outside the city. It was lying next to a broken notebook. Someone saw a boy matching Zane's description leave it behind." Mr. Raymond grabbed the notebook. The cover was torn, but inside he saw names. Dozens of them, all written by hand. And then he saw it. Emily Raymond. He stared at it. "This is his list," he whispered. "These are people he helped." David nodded. "Sir, this boy may not be a normal human." Mr. Raymond's eyes didn't move. "I don't care what he is. I only care that he's out there and alone." Back in the streets, Zane walked slowly past closed shops and sleeping dogs. His head hurt, his legs were tired, but he didn't stop. Suddenly, he heard crying. He followed the sound until he found a small girl sitting under a broken bus stop. She was alone, hugging her knees, shaking in the cold. Zane walked closer. "Are you okay?" The girl looked up, scared at first, but then relaxed when she saw his face. I lost my mom," she sobbed. Zane sat beside her. He said nothing, just held her hand. After a few minutes, the girl stopped crying. Her body stopped shaking. A woman ran toward them from the corner, yelling, "Maya." The little girl stood up and ran into her mother's arms. "Thank you," the woman cried to Zane. "Thank you." But when she looked again, Zane was already walking away. His footprints slowly disappeared into the rain. The next day, Emily was playing with her doll when she felt something. She stood still. "Daddy," she said. "He's near." Mr. Raymond looked at her. "Zane?" She nodded. "He helped someone last night. I don't know who, but I felt it." Mr. Raymond grabbed his coat. "I'm going to the river. That's where the shoe and notebook were found." Emily held his hand. "Tell him something if you see him." "What?" She smiled. "Tell him I'm still smiling." At the riverbank, Mr. Raymond stood where Zane's notebook had been found. He looked around. The water was calm now. The sky was clear. And then he saw it. Small, wet footprints on the dirt. They stopped near the edge of the trees. He knelt down and touched one of them gently. "You saved my daughter," he said softly. "Now let me save you." He stood up, eyes full of promise. "I will find you, Zane, no matter what." Night came again. The city lights flickered in the distance. Most people were asleep, but in the darkness, two souls were still awake, one searching and one hiding. Mr. Raymond stood in his study, staring at the map on the wall. It was covered with red pins, each marking a place where Zane had been seen. There were dozens of them now. David walked in with tired eyes. "Sir, we checked the shelter near the train station. No one saw him." Mr. Raymond didn't reply. David stepped closer. "We've been searching for days. Maybe we should give him space." Mr. Raymond looked at him. "If your child was saved by a miracle, would you stop?" David lowered his head. "No, sir." "Then neither will I." Meanwhile, Zane sat in an abandoned building, hiding from the cold. His clothes were torn. His hands were shaking, but his eyes were calm. The room was dark, except for a small candle he had found. Its flame danced gently, casting shadows on the walls. Zane closed his eyes. Suddenly, he heard whispers. Soft, gentle voices. "You are not alone. You are chosen." But they must never know. He opened his eyes quickly. The whispers stopped. He looked around. No one was there. He stood up, walked to the window, and looked outside. The rain had stopped. The sky was clear again, but his heart was heavy. "Why me?" he thought. "Why do I feel everything? Why can't I be normal?" He looked at his hands. They had healed so many, But every time he helped someone, a small part of him felt emptier. He sat down again and whispered, "I don't want to be special. I just want to be free." Back at the apartment, Emily woke up suddenly. She looked around her dark room. She sat up and whispered, "Zane?" There was no reply, but her heart was beating fast. She got out of bed and walked to the balcony. The night air was cold, but she didn't care. She looked up at the stars. "I know you're hurting," she said softly. "I can feel it." She closed her eyes. "If you can hear me, don't give up. You're not alone." The next day, Mr. Raymond visited a small temple on the edge of the city. He had heard a rumor that a strange boy had come there, barefoot and silent, leaving behind only a drawing on the wall. He entered the temple and looked around. On one wall, drawn with charcoal, was a picture of a child holding hands with a little girl. The child had no face, but the girl had a bright smile. She looked like Emily. A monk came forward. He didn't speak, the monk said, but he stayed here for one night. He sat in silence. Then he left before dawn. Mr. Raymond studied the drawing. "He's hurting, isn't he?" he asked. The monk nodded. "Yes, he carries the pain of many, but he has no one to carry his own." Mr. Raymond looked at the sky through the temple roof. A single bird flew above. "I need to find him," he whispered, "before it's too late." That night, Zane walked alone through the empty streets. Lights flickered. The wind blew leaves across the ground. As he turned a corner, he saw a man sitting on the sidewalk, coughing badly. Zane walked to him slowly. The man looked up, weak and tired. "Help me," he whispered. Zane knelt down. He didn't speak. He placed his hand on the man's chest, closed his eyes. A warm light filled the space for just a second. The man's breathing calmed. His face relaxed. When he opened his eyes, Zane was gone. Back in his hiding place, Zane felt weaker than ever. He sat down, leaning against the wall. Suddenly, the whispers returned. "You are fading. You gave too much. The end is near." He covered his ears. "No," he whispered, "I'm not done." He looked out the window, and for the first time, tears ran down his face. At that same moment, Emily woke again. She ran to her father's room. "Daddy, something's wrong." "Zane, he's not okay." Mr. Raymond jumped out of bed. "Where?" "I don't know," she said, "but he's in danger." He looked into her eyes. And then he knew. "It's time," he said. "I must find him tonight." In the shadows, a storm begins again. Zane is weak, alone, and running out of time. Will Mr. Raymond find him before it's too late? Zane's hands were cold. His breath was slow. He sat alone on the stone floor of an old, empty warehouse. His eyes stared at the candle in front of him, the last bit of light in the darkness. He had nothing left to give. His body felt weak. His heart felt heavy. But even now, he smiled softly. "I helped them," he whispered. "That's enough." Suddenly, the candle flickered. The wind came in through a broken window. And then, the light went out. Elsewhere in the city, Mr. Raymond drove through the dark streets, his hands tight on the steering wheel. Emily sat beside him, holding the small notebook Zane had left behind. "I feel him," she whispered. "He's close." Mr. Raymond turned left at the signal. The city lights blurred through the raindrops on the windshield. "I won't lose him," he said. Back in the warehouse, Zane lay on the ground, eyes half open. His body was weak, but his heart was still kind. Even in pain, he thought about others. He saw faces in his mind. Emily's bright smile, the little girl from the bus stop, the coughing man who could now breathe again, all of them, all healed, all safe. A soft whisper filled the air. "You gave everything. For them." Zane smiled faintly. "That's all I ever wanted." His eyes slowly began to close. Meanwhile, Mr. Raymond stopped the car. "This is it," Emily said. "He's inside." They ran toward the old warehouse, water splashing under their feet. "Zane!" Mr. Raymond shouted. "Zane, are you here?" No answer. They pushed open the rusty metal door. It creaked loudly. Inside, Everything was dark. Then Emily pointed. There, in the corner, they saw him, curled up on the floor, barely breathing. "Zane," she cried. Mr. Raymond rushed over, lifted the boy gently in his arms. Zane opened his eyes weakly. "Emily?" "I'm here," she whispered. "We're here." Zane smiled. "Just a little. You're safe." Mr. Raymond held his hand. "You saved her. Now let us save you." The hospital lights were bright. Doctors moved quickly. Machines beeped. Nurses ran. Zane was placed on the bed. Mr. Raymond stood outside the glass watching. Emily held his hand. "Will he be okay?" she asked. He didn't answer. He just watched and prayed. Hours passed. Zane's body was still, but inside his mind, he was somewhere else. He stood in a field of light. It was warm, peaceful, quiet. Then a voice called him. "Zane." He turned. He saw a woman. Her face was kind, glowing. "Who are you?" he asked. The woman smiled. "I am the reason you feel what others feel. I am the one who gave you the gift." "Why me?" "Because your heart was pure," she said. "You never wanted fame, never wanted money, only to help." Zane lowered his eyes. "I'm tired." "I know," she said. "But your journey is not over." Zane looked confused. "What do you mean?" She touched his chest. "You are the light in the dark. The world still needs you." Suddenly, his heart monitor beeped. The doctors turned. "He's coming back." Mr. Raymond gasped. Emily smiled with tears in her eyes. "He's fighting." A few hours later, Zane opened his eyes slowly. The lights above him were soft. Emily sat beside his bed. "You came back," she said. Zane nodded weakly. "I heard your voice." Mr. Raymond entered the room. He looked at Zane, not with pity, but with deep respect. "You saved my daughter. You saved many. Let me give you a home." Zane looked unsure. "I don't belong anywhere." "Yes, you do," Emily said, holding his hand. "You belong with us." Zane didn't speak, but a tear fell from his eye, not from pain, but from peace. Outside the hospital, the rain had stopped. The sky was clearing. A new day was beginning. Zane was no longer just a boy on the street. He was hope. He was healing. He was the last light in many people's darkest nights. 1 month later, the world began to talk about a boy who had no name in the system, no home, and no parents, but who had something more powerful than money or fame. He had a heart full of light. His name was Zane. After his recovery, Zane stayed in the Raymond home, not because he wanted comfort, but because he was finally accepted, not as a mystery, not as a miracle, but as family. Emily was the happiest she had ever been. She followed Zane everywhere, like a shadow full of smiles. "Where are you going?" she would ask. "To the park," Zane would reply. "Someone there is sad today." She would nod. "Then let's go." Mr. Raymond watched them from the window every morning. His heart, once filled with stress and pride, was now calm. One day, Mr. Raymond called a press conference. He stood in front of cameras and said, "This boy saved my daughter's life. He saved strangers in the street. He has a gift we may never fully understand, but what we do understand is love." Zane taught us that. The world listened. The video went viral. Millions of people around the globe wanted to meet Zane. Some called him an angel. Some called him a healer. But Zane just called himself a boy who listens. Despite all the fame, Zane didn't change. He still wore simple clothes, still walked through poor neighborhoods, still held the hands of people in pain, and smiled at those who had forgotten how to smile. He healed quietly. He never asked for attention. He never stayed long. One day, a mother in a hospital cried for her baby who would not wake up. Doctors had no answers. Zane entered the room. He sat beside the crib, closed his eyes, and placed his hand over the baby's tiny chest. For a few seconds, the room was silent. Then, a small cough, a small cry. The baby opened his eyes. The mother gasped, "Thank you, thank you." Zane smiled, stood up, and left without a word. Later that week, Mr. Raymond found Zane sitting under a tree in their garden. "Why don't you rest more?" he asked. "You've done enough." Zane looked at the sky. "There's always someone hurting. I can feel them, like soft voices in the wind." Mr. Raymond sat beside him. "But you're still a child. You need care too." Zane turned to him. "I feel stronger when I help others. That's my way of healing." Mr. Raymond smiled. "Then promise me one thing." "What?" "Let us walk beside you." Zane nodded slowly. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel alone. 1 year later, a foundation was created. It was called The Light Within. It was built in Zane's name, but not for praise. It was a center for children with gifts, for the poor, for the forgotten, for anyone who needed hope. Zane visited every week. He taught kids how to listen, to the world, to pain, to kindness. He never gave speeches. He never asked for thanks. He only smiled, and that smile healed hearts. Back at the Raymond home, Emily was drawing something. Zane peeked over her shoulder. "What's that?" "It's you," she said. "Saving the world." Zane laughed softly. "I didn't save the world." Emily looked at him. "No, but you changed it." Zane didn't reply. He just smiled again. And that was enough. Later that night, Zane stood at the window, looking out at the stars. He whispered, "I don't know why I was given this gift, but I know what it means now. It means, keep going, keep loving, keep healing." Behind him, Emily yawned. "Come to sleep." Zane turned. "Okay, good night, world." And somewhere, in a quiet street, a stranger cried softly. And far away, a sick boy opened his eyes. And across the world, a woman smiled again for the first time in years. Because somewhere out there, a poor boy once whispered, "I can heal her." And he did more than heal. He changed the world.